Hi friends, welcome back. Today is such an important little video today because we are talking about that moment you realize that you've healed. This is one of the most groundbreaking moments. That moment when it's just like this realization that you've moved through something that was holding you back so long, and maybe you're listening to this not having moved through it yet, but having hopes for that. Let me tell you, it's coming. And for the episode today, I want to share with you so much. And the reason I have decided to create this video is because when I returned back home after traveling, I remember feeling whenever I traveled, whenever I returned home, it felt like a punch to the stomach. Because I created this whole life traveling. And if you've ever gone through post-travel blues, you understand it, where your life, like everything changes while you're traveling. You become this person that is just new and involved, and you've learned so many lessons and you've met so many people, and you come home only to realize everything's the same. And your energy kind of shifts and you go, what happened? And it feels like a literal punch in the gut. And what happens out of that is eventually you fall back into the routine of things. And I got this every time I traveled. And for the very first time earlier this year when I traveled, I came home after Europe and I realized it didn't hurt anymore. I felt so grounded. I felt so grateful, and I was so excited to create something here. And I realized that when I traveled, it was one of the most incredible things I've done, and I needed it in order to learn and grow. And it's something I will continue to do. But when I traveled, it was also my way to escape who I was at home, because I wasn't the person I wanted to be at home. And I came home this time and I realized finally I had started doing the things I wanted to do, and I didn't feel that disconnect anymore. I had healed. I had healed that version of myself who ran away from home. I had healed that version of myself who couldn't be herself at home and could only be herself when traveling. And it was through that realization that I had that I realized healing, it happens so quietly. Like, whether it be a heartbreak, whether it be a pattern, a belief system, it happens so quietly that we don't notice it. And so in this episode, you're going to learn how to recognize the subtle signs that you've healed, whether that be from heartbreak, whether that be from old patterns, whether that be for old friendships, belief systems, whatever it might be. You are going to learn to notice those signs, and you're going to learn how to understand your own emotional growth. And most importantly, if you're somebody who's still going through it right now, through this video, you're going to learn how to hold hope that it's coming, that healing is coming. Because I've been in it, whether it be a heartbreak, whether it be old patterns, old beliefs, I've been in that moment where it didn't feel like the healing was coming. And I've been on the other side where I went, wow, they were right. It does happen. And it happens gradually, but it happens. And that feeling of getting to that point is one of the most incredible feelings. So in this episode today, we are going to talk about a few different things. We're going to talk about what healing actually looks like in real life, why healing is so gradual that you barely notice it. And I'm also going to share the proof moments that show you're different now. And then we're going to talk about how this applies in friendship, in dating, and in identity. Now, if this is attracted to you and you like this style of videos, then please subscribe or follow, whether it's through Spotify, Apple, or whether you're on YouTube. Please come and join my journey. Come and join, because every week we release something new, a new part of the journey that you might be also having at the same time. Okay, let's get into the episode. What healing actually looks like. So healing, it's not dramatic. It's actually really subtle. It's really subtle. And it happens when you're busy living life. When you're so busy, when you're so distracted creating this life of yours, it happens. And normally it happens in internal shifts before you notice the external evidence. So let's talk about a few internal shifts that you might have. You stop replaying it. You stop replaying the same scenario over and over. What I could have done different, what I should have done instead, what they could have done different, like whatever it might be. You stop replaying it. you forget about that person, even if it's temporary. You go an hour, 4 hours, 6 hours, it starts to grow. You go a day, you go a week, and you don't think about that person. You stop spiraling as quickly. When we're in the cusp of it all, we can spiral into anxiety very easily. But slowly you ease your way out of that as you adjust to this healing. You start looking forward to feeling pain because you felt what it feels like to work through that pain and to get to the other side. You actually kind of go, okay, if I have to feel this, I can feel this because I know I can get on the other side. You don't judge yourself if you fail. That was a huge thing for me in my healing process is at the beginning, I would feel like I was getting better and then I would spiral in some point, whether it's like go on their Instagram or it would be thinking about them or bringing them up in conversation. And I would go, oh, I failed, like I've done it wrong. And I would judge myself so harshly for it. But sometimes you might fail, quote unquote fail. Sometimes you might slip up. What happens after that? Because if you go into this judgment shame spiral, it's going to do the opposite. You're going to fall deeper into the unhealing process. Versus if you go, okay, I didn't make the right choice, but I'm going to take that lesson and make the right choice next time. And then also you don't rush for validation from other people or to be around other people. Like when we're going through a lot of pain, it can feel easier to be around people to distract us. When you stop looking for that and you stop looking for their validation to say, yes, you should be hurting you, that makes sense. That's a huge step. Your desire for closure becomes less important. We're not always going to be able to get closure. I have an episode about this. Feel free to give it a search. It is on Spotify if you want to learn more about closure. But we don't necessarily get to get the answers for everything. So this desire for closure lessens. You start trusting yourself more. Instead of second guessing everything you do, you start to lean into that intuition and that trust that it will work out. And when you start noticing these internal shifts, you'll also start noticing these external shifts. You stop checking their socials. You're no longer checking to see where they are or if they've added anyone new on Instagram, Facebook. If they've added anyone new, you've stopped checking because you don't need that anymore. You don't bring up the situation when you talk about your life. So when someone gives an example of their story and you're like, oh, I can relate to it with this, you stop using them as your example. You pause before you withdraw from a situation. And then you also set boundaries. You start setting boundaries because you don't want to go back into that thing that caused that pain. So you set boundaries that support you in still growing, but not allowing yourself to get pulled back in. And on that, you walk away from situations that are similar to the previous situation. Something comes up, maybe it's a test from the universe, and you say no to it. You start going to new places, joining communities like Be Social, like my events page, Be Social. You start going to these new places and you start creating a life outside of that situation. And you start to take up space. You start to see that you're important and your presence is important and you put your space in the world again. All right, let's talk about why healing is so gradual that you barely notice it. Basically, the brain rewires slowly. And when we start creating new habits in the background, and I talked a little bit about this in a previous video about Joe Dispenza, when you start creating new habits, you start to rewire and train your brain to have different belief. And what happens is you then outgrow these patterns before you even realize. Especially when you're building connections and community that matter more than the situation. Because your brain is starting to reassociate the importance of people. They're removing the past situation as important and kind of like a PlayStation where you'd have to take over the memory and save a new slot. These new connections and community are becoming more important. And then from that, these become your first thoughts of the day. These new people, these new connections, this community, they become what you think about first. And there are actually proof moments that show you're different now. There are situations that can occur that show that you've grown. You could see an old message and feel nothing. You could return to a place tied to a memory of the situation and just feel peace. You could be around similar situations, similar people, similar situations, but you make new choices around it. This is huge. It's a huge way to prove that you've grown. And how does this actually show up in friendship, dating, and identity? Your confidence grows quietly. The more you do this, the more you rewire your brain, your confidence is building and your confidence is growing back. After something big happens where we have heartbreak or we need the healing, our confidence is normally shot to the ground. When we can allow our confidence to start growing again, that's when things change. And that's when you start attracting different people. You stop settling for the crumbs that maybe you had settled for before, and you start attracting better people into your life. You can also reread old journal entries, and instead of feeling sorry for yourself or feeling pain, you start to feel compassion. Compassion for this version of you who was going through so much. And I did this. I purposely journaled when I was going through heartbreak so that I could read back on it later. And when I read back on it now, it feels like a different person. It feels like I'm reading somebody else's journal. So I just feel a lot of empathy for the person who wrote that, not feeling like it's me who did it. And you realize that you haven't really thought about it in weeks. And so you stop explaining the story to everyone. It starts to become, you can make new memories with people. And even a song or a place that used to remind you of that person or of that situation that used to break you when you'd hear it, that you maybe even had to avoid listening to for so long, it now feels nostalgic. I had this really recently with a friend. He's a new friend of this year, and we played each other our breakup songs. So the songs that we listen to when we're going through breakup, and we're both just so excited to show it. Instead of being sad about listening to the songs, we were excited to be this one. And I feel so much better about this now. This lyric doesn't hit me anymore. It's really cool feeling to be able to look back at it with almost like a happy memory or a lesson learned rather than a sad story. And then you'll be able to see they moved on. And even though it might shock you and maybe you feel sad for a moment just because it's your nervous system kicking into place, you don't wish for them back. You don't want them back in your life. And that actually helps you move forward. I had a friend this happened to where they kind of came back up a situation with this person moving on. And they were able to see it as, I needed that because now I no longer hold hope of any chance of us coming back, even though I didn't want it to happen. Now I can fully release it. And this is why I would encourage to embrace communities and embrace new friends, old friends, because they are the people that will get you through the situation. So if you're going through this now, if you are really struggling with your healing process, lean into your community, whether that's community groups, whether that's friendships from high school, whether it's making new friends through something like Bumble, whatever it might be, lean into your community, whether it's your family, because your community helps reflect your growth back to you and they will help you get through it. I was traveling while healing, and the people I met really helped me. They really helped me move through it. Now, to summarize this video, is just remember, healing is quiet, it's gradual, and it's incredibly powerful. And you often don't see it until one day you respond differently and realize that you're no longer where you used to be. Now, if this has clicked with you and you want to see more videos around this, then subscribe, follow the channel, and come and join my journey as we undertake yours as well. And I'm going to end on a cliche, of course. And the cliche for today is, the version of you now is the proof your past self needed.